This video is going to be one of a few different videos that I'm going to make on this whole preparation thing. I don't know exactly how many videos I'm going to make. It all depends on the rate at which we get information for Shadowkeep. So for those of you who do remember, I did a big old spreadsheet slash prep thing for Penumbra in terms of getting ready for the Crown of Sorrow release. This is going to be something that is similar to that. I'm going to do everything that I can to get you guys ready for the Garden of Salvation raid, which again drops on October 5th. We have 4 days of preparation between DLC release and when the raid drops. The feedback from the last spreadsheet was actually very positive. I heard a lot of people were able to hit the contest cap in terms of light level. Being able to hit the cap when the DLC launches for the raid race is actually very beneficial. Every little light level will count and it will help you a lot. Like I mentioned earlier, we're going to have to do it in chunks this time. So if you guys want to keep up to date on all the preparation stuff, there's going to be a couple different ways you can do so. The first of which is by looking at the new spreadsheet. I'll leave a link down to that in the description. It will all be updated live. If you're going to download that spreadsheet, I would wait until I announce that it's fully completed. The other way you can stay up to date on all the preparation stuff is by subscribing to the YouTube. We're rolling up on 100,000 spreadsheet cheaters strong. I love you guys. Thank you all so much for the support, by the way. So yeah, I will be posting more videos similar to this one. The more information that we get down the line here, hopefully we'll start to have more of a master plan here within the next couple of weeks. Just make sure you guys stay tuned and I'll keep you up to date. Alright, so the first thing on this list is Vanguard / Crucible tokens. The best way to farm these is by popping Boons of the Vanguard or Boons of the Crucible, which can be used during strikes or during Crucible matches. If you're doing it with friends, I believe you can get up to 3 maximum per Crucible / strike. When you're going to open the Vanguard token packs, you also want to make sure that you have a corresponding Nightfall emblem, the one that gives you the bonus tokens with 100,000 score. So as long as you have that completed, when you go to turn in your token packs, you're going to want to load into a Nightfall, make sure you have that ghost and the emblem equipped. It will give you both bonus tokens, so those will add up very quickly if you have a lot of packs to open. I would assume that going into Shadowkeep that Zavala and Shaxx are going to function the same way in terms of turning in 20 tokens for an engram. These tokens are mainly going to be used for 2 things. The first of which is hitting the soft cap of 900, so we're going from 750 to 900. All of that is going to be leveling via the story missions, random blue world drops, and I think that you'll be able to do it by turning in tokens to these vendors as well. The same may or may not apply to other world vendors that now require materials to turn in. So if you go to, for example, you go to Mercury, you turn in Simulation Seas to Brother Vance, you get an engram. It may be able to help you at the soft cap as well, but we're not 100% certain yet. The second thing that these tokens will be good for is getting new weapons. So you'll be able to go to the Vanguard and the Crucible, just spam a bunch of tokens and be able to rip through the new weapons, see what rolls you got, be able to test them out before the raid drops. I think this will be a very important aspect to see what kind of loadouts will be good. But anyways, those are the 2 main reasons you guys are going to want to save tokens. I would try and save some for later down the road too. I would not blow all of them right on Shadowkeep launch. Just be smart with your spendings. Moving on to the second thing on the list, we have Gunsmith parts, legendary shards, mod components, and enhancement cores. Let's start out with Gunsmith parts and legendary shards. Honestly, this does sound really stupid, but the best way to get both of these is just by playing the game. There are ways in which you can spend legendary shards for materials and then go turn materials into vendors and then get legendary shards and Gunsmith parts for it, but in the end you're going to be hurting yourselves in the legendary shards department. So if you're lenient towards one side, there are ways to get the other, but if you're looking to get both of these, I would highly recommend that you just play the game as much as possible. The best thing that comes to mind off of me is to play strikes, because there are a lot of legendary drops, especially when you're killing a lot of stuff, and in the end chest. Gunsmith parts and legendary shards will also come from turning in tokens when you do that on DLC launch. You'll be getting a bunch of new legendary stuff, and most of it you're probably going to be deleting. Not really entirely sure on that, but at least the way it works right now, if you're turning in tokens, you're basically scrapping 90% of it, at least. And you're just able to sit there and farm a ton of Glimmer, shards, and Gunsmith parts. Now let's talk about mod components. I think going into Shadowkeep, mod components may be able to be used to craft new mods. I'm not entirely sure on that, so don't quote me on that. But I think these will be very useful to have handy. The best way to get these is by going to 801 in the tower, going to our second page, and you can purchase them directly from there for 25 Gunsmith parts and 3 legendary shards each. Little side note that I don't think that having mod components is going to be as important as having the other 3 Gunsmith parts, legendary shards, and enhancement cores. So if you have to prioritize the other 3, definitely do so. But if you have extras, definitely invest in some mod components. So now, moving into enhancement cores. There are many ways to get enhancement cores now, but the most efficient way that I've been doing it for a long time is you want to hit up your good old boy Spider on the Tangled Shore. Anyways, usually what I would do every day is I would go up to Spider. He has them directly for sale. I would purchase 2 of them because it would only cost me 30 shards. The third shard on the daily costs 40 shards itself. So it's most optimal to just get 2 shards per day, and these will add up very quickly, especially if you're not spending them. The other thing that you can do from Spider to get a ton of enhancement cores is to buy tons and tons of simulation seeds. Note, he is not always selling simulation seeds for legendary shards, so you have to be paying attention on when he is selling them. So say for example, I go up to Spider and I spend 1,000 of my legendary shards. That means I got 5,000 simulation seeds that I can go turn into Brother Vance. When I'm turning in the seeds and getting my legendary items, you're basically just going to want to scrap all of them. That way you're 1, getting Gunsmith parts, 2, you should be getting enhancement cores because it has, I believe, the highest drop rate of masterworked items. That's why you specifically want to do simulation seeds. And on top of that, you should be getting about 70 to 80% of your shards back. So the 1,000 shards that I invested, I should be getting about 700 to 800 of those back. Those are the 2 ways that I went about farming enhancement cores. I have about 1,600 saved up right now. I've not been farming any time in the past few months because I've had so many just laying around. There are other sources of getting them too. The other best way I'd say to get them is just by doing like your weekly Last Wish, Scourge of the Past, and Crown raids. That way, if you are getting any of those curated guns, upon dismantling them, you will get 7 enhancement cores each. But if there are other good methods that I'm unaware of, please leave them down in the comments for other people below. It would be very, very much appreciated. So my goal for all 4 of these things, the Gunsmith parts, legendary shards, mod components, enhancement cores, I would recommend that you have about 5,000 to 10,000 Gunsmith parts, 2,000 to 5,000 legendary shards, 200 to 300 mod components, and 3,000 to 1,000 enhancement cores. Some of those may be a little bit overboard / undershooting. We don't really know what's going on in Shadowkeep, what they'll be used for, but it's better safe than sorry. So if you can get more of these than I just spoke about, definitely try and do so. But I would highly, highly recommend that you have a good amount of each, because those are like the most important materials besides planetary materials going into Shadowkeep. So a good segue in here, our next category is planetary materials. So you have Dusklight Shards, Alkane Dust, Data Lettuce, Phase Glass, Seraphite, Simulation Seeds, Barium Bows, and Etheric Spiral. I would try to aim to have at least 1,000 of each of these materials. I'm personally going to go for 5,000 of each. We're totally good in the Barium Bow department, by the way. But these materials are very, very easy to get other than Barium Bows and Etheric Spiral. Dusklight Shards, Alkane Dust, Data Lettuce, Phase Glass, Seraphite, Simulation Seeds can all be purchased from Spider when he does have them available. If you are buying them from him, I would recommend buying them when he has them available for legendary shards. That way you can just sit there and spam click it while you're watching a TV show or whatever. These will be very, very useful for upgrading all your weapons and stuff, because I'm pretty sure these are still going to be used in the infusion system and might have some other uses outside of it. But for Barium Bows, the best way to get Barium Bows is to go to the Aphelions Rest Lost Sector on the Dreaming City. You're going to want to Sparrow into the Lost Sector. You're going to grab, there should be 3 Barium Bows sitting around it. You're going to kill the boss, grab the chest, and walk out. And just rinse and repeat this as fast as possible. It can be very, very tedious. You can just go around by casually getting them in the beginning area too. It's up to you, but the lost sector is the most efficient way to do it. As for etheric spiral, I'm not really sure the fastest method to get these. I would assume that it would be a lost sector as well, but if anybody has a better method, please, again, leave it down in the comments below. I'm not as well informed on this one, so I don't want to spew a bunch of BS to you guys. Overall, again, just make sure you're stocked up on materials because these will be very, very important for the infusion system. Alright, so this next thing is still under testing, I'd like to say, so it's not completely finished, but just to give it a broad category, this is bounties for experience and experience boosters. So first let's talk about experience boosters because that's pretty simple. There are two different ways to get experience boosters, the first of which is by having an exotic ghost with the guiding light perk on it, and the second of which is by getting fire team medallions from the Eververse store. Both are pretty easy to access and you're going to want to have them. So actually today we learned that experience is going to be very useful going into Shadowkeep. The new season pass that they've announced is going to be based on experience gains as well as the artifact that you get, the seasonal artifact. So essentially what we're trying to do here is we're just trying to save a lot of bounties for the experience gain when you turn them in, not particularly for the drops. Like I said, this is still kind of under testing, so I will need to do a lot of testing in terms of which bounties give the most experience and which is the optimal amount of bounties and which bounties to have. So this is one of those instances where I'll either need to make a separate video on this or I will update it on the spreadsheet. So just keep your eyes peeled for both. But again, that's the main concept. It's just being able to stockpile as much XP as possible. So that way, when you do have access to these items, you'll be able to progress as much as you physically can before the raid drops. That way you have access to the most amount of stuff that will help you as possible. Alright, so we have just a couple things left on the list here. The next one is preparing ships for Glimmer. So this will require you to have a good amount of vault space as well as hopefully having stuff unlocked from previous seasons. Let me explain why this is important before we get too far into this. So just imagine a situation, Shadowkeep drops, you have used all your Glimmer for infusion, whatever it may be, and you're at 0 Glimmer. Normally you would have to either go to Spider to buy Glimmer from him, or you would have to just earn it naturally. Having these ships handy in the vault will allow you to easily just be able to pull them out and dismantle them. Upon dismantling them, you will get 5,000 Glimmer back. So if you have a bunch of them saved up, you will just be able to work your way back up to max Glimmer, no problem. Back to saving these ships for Glimmer, there are a few different ones that you can choose from in terms of saving them. So when you are saving them, all you have to do is pull up your collections, and you just need to buy them straight from the collections and then throw them in your vault. For example, the most optimal one to use that I found is Zavala's Authority, which is a Season 3 ship. It costs 7,500 Glimmer and 5 Legendary Shards, but when you dismantle it, you get 5,000 Glimmer and 5 Legendary Shards. It is a little bit of a deficit, but again, when you have these stacked up, it's basically just used to rebuild your Glimmer count. In the off season, aka right now when we're preparing, I would assume that a lot of you, if you go into your inventory, you're near max Glimmer because you don't really spend it on anything if you are already at max light. So if you dump in as much Glimmer as you can until you're about empty, you'll be able to take those ships, throw them in the vault, and then just naturally get your Glimmer up again and just rinse and repeat. This also does work with the Platinum Starling Season 5 ship. This one costs 2,500 Glimmer and 5 Legendary Shards and returns you with 5,000 Glimmer and 2 Legendary Shards. This also works with the Trials of Osiris Ghost, the Knight's Peace Ghost Shell, and the other side Sparrow. I'm assuming there are others that this does work with as well, so again, if you have other strats for those who don't have those items, please leave it down in the comments below. But again, like I said, Zavala's Authority is the most efficient one I've found so far. That way you are able to retain your legendary shards without losing any. Last thing on the list for now is to stack armor mods. This can be any armor mod that you might find. A lot of these will come from like Menagerie, Crown of Sorrow. The Gunsmith sometimes sells some of these mods. These may be useful on the 2.0 armor. We're not entirely sure. But again, more of a better safe than sorry type of scenario. No real loss in the end. And if it does work, then good. It definitely will be a benefit, and you'll be able to at least be a little bit farther ahead than other people. That's really all I have for the spreadsheet right now. Again, I will have to do some more testing specifically for the bounties thing. I think that's going to be one of the biggest things that we'll see on the spreadsheet. I don't know how much more information we're going to get from them. I don't know if they're going to talk about the new leveling system at all. I don't know for sure. So if we do hear things, you guys can always count on the fact that I will update the spreadsheet and I will keep you guys updated. So if you want to subscribe, up to you. If not, thank you so much for watching. I hope this video helped. As always, leave some hearts down in the comments below, and hopefully we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.